Hi, I'm Ben.
And I'm Zach.
And welcome to another outdoor edition of the Movie Vault.
Wow, Ben and Zach are getting some sun. Isn't Zach going to burn?
I'm a little worried, to be honest.
Yeah. I'm very pale for those listeners who have never seen me.
Yesterday night, Zach braved the wilderness.
I did?
And
I did.
He pitched a tent. There was raccoons, there was poison ivy, there was all kinds of crazy things trying to disrupt his peaceful night of sleep, but I think he overcame it.
Yeah, I used bear mace on the raccoons.
Bear mace.
Yeah, I overkilled the raccoons.
He had a bear trap set up on each corner of the tent. That's what was weighing it down. So.
When you use bear mace on a raccoon, you just line up 3 raccoons. One shot goes through all 3.
That works pretty well. Hopefully Rocket was one of them.
Yeah. I hope it was, stupid guy.
Guardians 3 coming out in how many years?
Shout out to the most delayed Marvel sequel besides Doctor Strange 2. I think actually the beginning of next year.
Beginning of next year, so it's pretty close.
Yeah.
I'm excited about that one.
There's a Guardians holiday special on December 1st.
Right. Hopefully that'll be better than the Star Wars one. I do want to see the Star Wars one.
Hey, the Star Wars one, give it crap. It introduced Boba Fett.
True.
So
this is true.
That's what I think. It was good.
Yeah. But today we are not talking about Guardians of the Galaxy or Boba Fett.
Oh, yeah.
We are talking about none other than the 2014 movie directed by Dan Gilroy called Nightcrawler and starring who else but
Other
Jake
than
Gyllenhaal.
the Big Jake. That's what Ben and I call him.
Yeah. He's the currently best working actor, right? Who else would be competing with him? Leonardo DiCaprio and...
Not anymore. I think Leo had his time, honestly. I think there was a time when he was the best.
When he was trying to get roles that were
I think after Titanic was his best.
After Titanic was his best time?
I think he had a lot of great movies after Titanic.
That's true. That's when he had announced himself to the world. And
but he's still in relevant things.
He was in Shutter Island, and he was in... he won the Oscar for The Revenant.
Mm-hmm.
And Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And a litany of other movies. I think Blood Diamond, Django Unchained. But Jake Gyllenhaal, I think, doesn't get as much credit as Leonardo.
That's very true. Leo's like the number one guy that everybody always thinks of. But Jake... people know him, but we were just having a conversation with people earlier who were like, who is Jake Gyllenhaal?
Exactly. And it's like, yeah, you know him. The Taylor Swift fans hate him because apparently he broke her heart and she wrote a song about it. But I don't really care about that, so...
Harry Styles did too, so
yeah,
they still love Harry.
It seems like maybe it's a problem on Taylor Swift's end and not a problem on Jake Gyllenhaal's end.
The one thing in common in all of her songs is her, and it's all about breakups, so...
True.
Think about
It's almost like she maybe secretly wants to break up so that she can write more songs.
She's like, honey, our relationship's going to make so much money.
After it's over.
Yeah.
So.
But you may have noticed if you're watching the video that Ben and I don't have a table. So I found this handy rock that's going to do for now.
What's this rock's name?
Jake Gyllenhaal.
Jake Gyllenhaal. Jake Gyllenrock.
Yes. No, that's not. No.
That's so stupid.
Dwayne The Rock Johnson. That's what I'm calling him.
The Rock.
Yeah, Dwayne The Rock.
Yeah.
I like that.
Okay. We're adopting some podcasts, have mascots, so our mascot's a rock.
Yeah.
Because we rock.
Because we're like solid rock.
Yeah.
We built our house on the solid rock.
Yes.
The solid Dwayne Johnson.
It's translated into Gen Z terms.
That's my hermeneutic of it. Dwayne The Rock Johnson is what you need to do if you want to have a strong faith.
And if you don't want to have a strong faith, you can be Louis Bloom. And you can rely on yourself to achieve things. In the movie Nightcrawler, Jake Gyllenhaal stars as Louis Bloom, who's just a normal guy who's trying to find his way in the world. We first are introduced to him in the movie with him stealing a gate, like a fence. He literally takes a chain link fence and steals it, and he steals manhole covers and other things and takes it to a scavenger yard. And then he tries to convince the guy who's paying him for it to hire him, and the guy just says, "Well, I'm not hiring a thief."
It was a good pitch, though.
He sold it as well as he could have.
I would have hired him.
You would have hired him, but not a guy who works at a salvage yard, apparently. Apparently, he's smarter than that.
Yeah, but that was like, for the people that work there, that was like out of the ordinary.
Well, he's probably like, he's too smart. Like,
okay.
He's gonna somehow manipulate me into giving him money. He's like, knew better than...
Okay, I guess that's fair.
Or like knowing Lou, he would have like somehow found a way to take over the business or something.
He was pretty like pushy with the putting himself on the line.
Strong.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
It's like he almost couldn't. You could almost see through the rehearsed nature of the or it's like too odd, like nobody else does that, and it's just kind of off-putting.
Which is the start of many different, like this is the first of like 18 different things of those like copies of that situation throughout the entire movie. It's just it escalates in each one, kind of like that. Would you say it's kind of the same?
In Jake
like,
Gyllenhaal movies?
No, I'm saying like his approach, like he's coming on strong.
It escalates in each situation.
He's always presenting himself as like the best option, you know?
Yeah, that's true. He's selling himself, and he always tries to get the leverage over. He always is trying to gain the leverage over the other person, so that they know that they have to accept his offer because he has something against them. That if they don't like bite, he can use whatever he's trying to sell against them in some other way. But he comes across as trying to seem friendly.
But it's slightly manipulative.
It's a little bit more than slightly manipulative.
At the beginning.
Yeah, it's slightly manipulative for sure. But he accidentally comes across an accident on the highway, and he decides, I don't know why he stops, but he does.
I think he saw people filming it.
Yeah, and I think he stopped, and then the people came and filmed it. And it was... It was the character, I believe his name's Joe, who eventually becomes his rival. And he's like... And he starts asking him questions, and the guy's just kind of like, he answers it a few, and then he kind of is like, get lost, I'm not hiring. And then this makes him, I don't know, it puts an idea in his brain.
Yeah.
If nothing else, it seems like this guy's an idea guy. He's an entrepreneur.
Yeah. And I think at the beginning, not at the beginning, but like in the middle, he mentions that he takes online business classes, and you will see that throughout all of the situations that he's in, where he talks about different ways for entrepreneurship and rising up, building a company, being a CEO, what are the traits of that, and he memorized them to the T, where he can say the exact definitions throughout the movie.
You can apply everything to business entrepreneurship if you're Louis Bloom.
Yep.
And so because of this, he goes and he buys a camera. The way he buys a camera is he steals a bike. Now, it's the start. He seems like
you just have to overlook that.
He's a pretty good thief. And he tries to convince the guy that he rode the bike in the Tour de France or something. And he said it had like 38 gears, or I don't know. The guy was like, well, first of all, no bike has that many gears. And no bike is worth however, like $2,000 or however much. And so he eventually haggles down. And we get this sort of like first picture of him negotiating with people, because this is not the last time he tries to negotiate prices with people in the film. Actually, he negotiates prices with all of the main with both of the main other characters in the movie eventually. And and he negotiates for other things.
Yeah, true.
And he eventually gets 800 in store credit and spends it on a camcorder and a police scanner, and that's how he gets started nightcrawling. And at first, he's very bad.
Yeah. At first, he's either too late to the accident to where his rivals have already gotten it. So they come early. Like, they have a radio, and he didn't really know about this. He kind of was just looking for accidents, right? And he saw a cop, and he followed them, right?
Yeah.
And there were already first responders there. But then he saw that his rivals were there. And this happened like 2 or 3 times, right? Where his rivals had beaten him. But then he turns on the police radio. He stays up all night, like, recording the different signals. He memorizes all of the different codes used for different situations. And then he applies those to each one, so that he can listen to a code, listen to where it is, and then go to it faster than his rivals. And he got so quick with it that he actually beat his rivals one time.
Yeah.
And many times after, but the first time at least.
Yeah. And initially he struggles with certain things, like how to pick which incidents to go to. Like, literally there's a scene where he's filming a lady taking a breathalyzer, like someone who's just been pulled over for drunk driving. Like, he's just filming it, and the police officer's like, hey, get out of my face, like, what are you doing here? And which they say that in general, but they got to be extra shocked because, like, nobody comes to these situations, and all of a sudden this guy's here.
And he was filming, like, really close to their face.
Yeah, he would go right up. Like, he had no like natural instinct to stay far away. He was just trying to get immediately up into everyone's grill.
I think he's, like, aware of social cues, but I don't think he feels the urges to resist negative social cues.
Yes, I think that's exactly it. Yeah. He understands them, but at the same time, he feels like, I think he sees that as, like, it inhibits you. Like, if you respond to the negative social cues in a way that you become more passive, like, that will prevent you from being able to achieve things. Like, in his head, that's how it works. So he just ignores them. But then at the same time, he can't always ignore them, because there's police officers saying, like, get out of the way. Yeah. And he, like, eventually has to, submit to what they're saying.
But then he gets kind of good at it too. He's there before his rivals, or he's going to a different one than his rivals are at. And he actually gets there, and then he, like, is filming in the face of the people who are either just in a car accident, got hit by a car, something like that. He's, like, right in the face while, like, the police are distracted. So he starts finding his holes of where he can sneak in or pretend that he's part of the news.
I believe that he's the very first scene that he takes to KWLA is one of the scenes where they're putting somebody into a hospital stretcher.
Yep.
Or was it like somebody who got hit by a bicyclist who got hit? And he films way up so he gets all the graphic footage.
Lots of blood, and they're trying to help him. Like,
yeah,
it was gross. Like, it was kind of like bloody. It was like what's the word? Morbid. And he brings it to this news lady that's in charge of what goes on the news.
Right.
And he kind of pitches himself again. This is like the second or third pitch that he kind of has. Third after he talks with the bike guy. But he's kind of just saying, like, just put it in. And she's like, okay, fine. Like, this is kind of, I thought that was a little unrealistic that she's like, okay, fine. You know?
Yeah, right. Most people would just be like, no way.
You don't have a lot of time in that kind of thing because you're going to report it right away. Breaking news, you know?
Yeah.
But she's like, okay, fine. Let's look at the footage. He plugs it in. The footage is really good, except it's like sometimes blurry, shaky, stuff like that. It wasn't like high quality because he didn't have a good camcorder.
It was like authentic and it was close. That was what really sold them to the idea that, like, okay, we got to show this.
But I wouldn't say it sold her. By the way, there's like a bunch of people over there that are cheering. That's why, if you hear that.
I don't really know what they're cheering for, but I'm sure it was something really cool.
True. But he goes, like, I don't think everybody was sold. I think that just that lady was sold. I think that she was the one that was actually letting him into to this relationship with KWLA, yeah. Yeah, KWLA. Kind of just because there was another guy. What was the other guy that worked there? Lisa was the friend, or the girl.
It's
that
like
lets
Jack
him in.
Or something, but
okay. Either way, there's another guy who's kind of skeptical. Like, you're just gonna let him, do this? And he's like, it's very violent. She's like, no, you just have to. Frank, you just have to put it on. It'll get people talking. It'll get them doing stuff. But it kind of was just like a spur of the moment thing that caused this to happen. I thought that was a little unrealistic.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, but we see the power dynamics are different in this situation because Nina has all the power and he has to kind of suck up to her in terms of like getting her to see him as somebody who's like a realistic like option of somebody to work with. And so we see him being more friendly, more like critical of himself, perhaps.
Yeah.
More self-deprecating in a sense, but only in a way that he knows he has to get him in the door.
Yeah. And
from this point on, he starts going progressing more and more into the world of Nightcrawler, and he hires on a new employee. He tries to get this employee, Rick.
I think this was the best relationship in the movie, in my opinion.
Which is odd because of how it finishes.
Yeah, and it's weird. It's such a weird relationship.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking about it, and I was like, how does Rick just sit in the car with this guy all day?
Because he's young. He thinks that this is the next step in his career.
Right. He's buying what Lou is selling.
Because he's an adult.
Lou sells the company as way bigger than it actually is.
Well, he sells it as a company. It's just him.
It's just him. It's literally just him. I mean, Lou is a classic BSer. Like, he makes everything up and sells everything up as higher than it is, which is classic for entrepreneurs. Not to diss entrepreneurs, but like the advice that they give, they often probably give tips to say, oh, how do you make something look more professional? Well, they're not saying you are actually more professional. They're saying, how do you look more professional? It's like you have to play the part before you can become the part. So that's what Lou's doing.
And Lou's, again, selling. This is the fourth thing that he tries to sell.
Yeah, he's selling, but then Rick is also so desperate that he's almost feigning that he's not going to offer Rick the job. But Rick's probably like the only person who's responded because he's the only person desperate enough.
Yeah. And where was he in life?
He was homeless, but I think he was living maybe with friends or something. He had to take 3 buses to get there, and he was just at a point where he had to make something.
But he's a young kid. He doesn't know better.
He offered like $30 a month or a day, $30 a day, which is.
And he's like, yeah.
Working 12-hour nights, like that's very low pay.
He thinks it's a good deal, though. Yeah.
And it's referenced that the economy is really bad at whatever time this is set in.
2008?
Maybe. I mean, the movie was filmed in 2014. I don't know. I don't think the economy was like horrible then.
Well, they couldn't have predicted the economy now.
Yeah, it probably wasn't as bad as now, but maybe if it was set in 2008, that would make sense.
Yeah. But yeah, I think the pitching is honestly, I'm just realizing it's kind of the focal point of the movie. It's kind of like, how far can he go with this fantasy?
Yeah, essentially. And the thing is, as he keeps, like, he's faking it, and then he becomes what he promises. That's the odd thing. Like,
fake it till you make it. That's what he says.
Pushing the boundaries of what he's doing because he gets so obsessed with the idea of being so good at this thing. Now we see a couple times. There's a couple incidents where he starts to push the boundaries of what he should do and of good journalistic integrity, because he goes into a house that's been shot up. He was not invited in or anything. The door's open, so it's like questionable. That's his loophole as to why he can do it. And then he actually like switches stuff in the crime scene to make it look more frameable. Like, he's very into framing.
Like, he moved dead bodies and stuff.
So what you see is that, I think I heard this point out on another podcast, this movie is actually about film direction in a sense, because Lou is trying to take reality and frame it into being more than reality. Like, he's fictionalizing like what actually happened to look better for the piece. And then eventually Nina, who's the director, takes the story and fictionalizes that. So it becomes this thing that it's not actually. And news is sold to you as being something that's supposed to be like, we're just presenting you with what happened. But you see how they start to sensationalize things because of the pressure that's on them.
Well, yeah.
Get rated.
I mean, this is just what happened. So in the movie, they state this. They say they want to do projects on rich white people in the neighborhoods.
Crime that happens to them, because people are scared of that.
They wanted to see the shift of crime from urban areas to suburban white areas.
Yeah, urban areas creeping into suburban white areas. Because their viewers
are mostly them.
Are mostly the suburban white characters, presumably, and they are going to imagine that their neighborhoods are safe. So they start seeing it's not safe. They're going to be tuned into the news, paying attention to what's going on. So that's their
So they have a target audience. They have two filters of Lisa and of Lou. So you're really not getting any of the right story with three filters, from what you get to what happened.
Yeah, absolutely. And it seems like Lisa at first doesn't. She also has a progression, but it's just not. It's a little bit more subtle than Rick's. But I'm trying to think of where to go to next. So the real tipping point for Rick, where he really goes over the line, is when he shows up to a crime scene before the police. He goes to that crime scene, and he finds out. He knows that he's there before the police, and he goes up to the house and he finds out there's people still in the house. Then he sees shots. He films all of it. Walks into the house after the shooters leave, films the shooters as they're leaving, doesn't call the police, doesn't do anything. I mean, presumably the police have already been called because they've been dialed, so I guess maybe that's not. It's just, he goes into the house, he dramatically films the dead bodies. He even frames a crib, goes up to the crib, and then peers down into the crib, and you see that there's no baby in there. But it's clearly, like, he's thinking about it on the fly, but he's thinking about, how do I frame this in the way that will be most engaging to the viewers, which again is like, it's not really like just matter-of-fact filming. And I mean, I don't know how trespassing works, but
that is trespassing.
Yeah.
He's also in an active crime scene,
right? Which
is good to film active crime, of course.
And he moved around a few things, I believe.
No, but he's in an active crime scene and he didn't share any of it.
No,
even when the police come to his door and ask.
After the police come, he withholds information from the police, which is really what he could get in major trouble for. And then when he takes it to Lisa, he starts coercing her into making their relationship more than a business relationship. And at first she's like, of course, why I wouldn't do that. And this is, of course, also where we get the Lou saying, I'm into older women.
Yeah, why would they have that? Come
on. I mean, he's so creepy.
I'm not surprised, though.
And then, but he gets her to go to dinner, and then at the dinner, he basically blackmails her into escalating their relationship way beyond a professional relationship into an intimate relationship that she's not comfortable with, but yet she's so desperate that she accepts.
Yeah. And
most of this, fortunately, we don't have to see the actual interactions between them.
Yeah.
Other than that dinner scene, because that was all I could handle. It
was uncomfortable.
It was uncomfortable, and that's why you buy Jake Gyllenhaal's performance so much, is because you start to just see him as Louis Bloom and not as anybody else.
Yeah. But when you hate Jake Gyllenhaal in his movie, that's when you love him the most. That's the thing.
That is the thing.
But then I think this is the turning point in the movie. So he's no longer trying to pitch himself. He's actually
good at what he does.
Using the power that he's gained through lies to actually blackmail people. And he also does this with Rick, where he's blackmailing him to fire him to get him to do things when he's like, when he crosses that line of not withholding information from the police. I don't know, I said not. And, he actually eventually even goes further. He starts setting up these situations using the guys that he got in his video. He tracks them down, uses them to set up the scenario where the police meet the bad guys.
He calls 911. He follows them. He calls 911, and he sets up the situation. Before that, though, there's another morally degenerate thing that he does, which is that he actually, mostly out of spite, but also out of pure rage, murders his rivals. And it's sort of like...
Do they die?
Yeah, they die. He dies. Well, he's at least very critically injured.
Yeah.
I guess we don't know that he...
He sets up a situation.
He cuts the brakes of the van.
Yeah.
Knowing... And this is after they beat him to a scene because he wouldn't go work for them. Work for Joe. Mm-hmm. He refuses. He gets upset. He says he's going to shake him and stuff. And then...
And stuff.
And
says the F word in there. So.
He says the F word a couple times. It's a couple F bombs are thrown around in this movie.
Beware.
and then so his solution to this issue of Joe escalating his company to where he has more vans and more ability to cover more ground is to literally take him out. And then he films him, which Rick is like, no, we can't do this. He's one of us. And he's like, nope, this is my job. This is my duty. I have to do this as part of my job. So I'm going to do it.
It's a double win.
Yeah.
It was a good scenario.
It was excellent. And we get to see him enraged after he loses, break the mirror. He's so upset. He's so obsessive about this. And you also realize that, like, this guy doesn't sleep. He watches...
It shows him at night watching videos and listening to the tape recorders.
Yeah, in the day, he's, like, watching his own videos. He's learning stuff, presumably. Maybe he sleeps a little bit, but it's not a lot. And it never seems like he's tired, either. He's just always, like...
His mind is so active.
His eyes are just wide open.
I mean, he's quite literally a very smart guy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he doesn't have the knowledge at first, so it makes him seem dumb. But once he gains that knowledge very fast.
Yeah. He has, and people think that he doesn't understand people, but what he eventually tells Rick is, what if I understand people, but I don't like them? Because Rick keeps telling him, you don't understand people, like, at multiple points. And Rick eventually gets a raise, which is fine. And he actually kind of tricks Rick because he gets him... I don't know that he tricked Rick, because he told Rick he could negotiate whatever price he wanted. Rick was dumb and said 75 instead of 100 like he wanted.
He said any price, and he says 75. I was expecting something way more. Yeah, but that's still low. 75. That's still so low.
Still so bad.
Because it's 12 hours at night.
Yeah.
And he's already done terrible things.
He's making so much money off of Rick, and Rick's probably pretty decent at his job. He pushes Rick super hard, though, as the direction guy. But he says only because he believes in him. And
because he pushes Rick hard, and he uses the excuse of all these entrepreneurial phrases and stuff like that.
And then he builds him up enough. It's like any manipulative person. He rides him super hard, but then he also builds him up when he needs to. Mm-hmm. So he knows that balance. He plays with him.
But when they don't do it exactly as he says, or if he doesn't go above and beyond, he's yelling at them and saying they could be a better asset to the company. It's like super weird stuff.
Yeah. Like just ways that people wouldn't talk. I mean, Rick is right. He doesn't talk in a way that normal people would talk. Because he is basically, we find out in the film that he's a sociopath I can't diagnose it, but based on all the behaviors, it seems like...
I think that's the direction of the film, at least.
Yeah. That's what they're trying to say. And so, yeah, he, at the end of the movie, he sets up the crime scene. Mm-hmm. And the very last thing that he does is he sets up Rick to get shot. Mm-hmm. And knowing that after a cop and another guy have crashed, the guy they were pursuing, the cops were pursuing, crashed. Knowing that, he looks over, knows the guy's still alive, and has Rick go over and film.
And he tells Rick that he's not alive. Yeah. But he was.
And then he shoots Rick multiple times. And then he films Rick. And Rick's like, you knew. Like, he knows Lou well enough at this point. And Rick says something. This is after Rick has leveraged a position. He actually played Lou's game by seeing that Lou needed him to do something, participate in an illegal activity, and he could leverage that against him to get more money because he's upset about screwing himself over with the
$30 a night,
with the $75 a night, and so he wants half of what they make, which is going to be a bunch of money because they set up this scene to be so good, and so because he played Lou at his own game, Lou is very upset about this enough to get him shot and then film him, and then Lou says, "You were too dangerous to the company. You were willing to risk the company, and I can't have that."
Like, as he's dying,
he says this. And Rick just says, "You're crazy. You're crazy."
That's terrible, y'all. Yeah.
I mean, and then he goes to Lisa, or not Lisa, I keep calling her Lisa. Nina in the studio.
Oh, Nina. Okay.
Yeah, Nina. I don't know why I kept saying Lisa. For some reason, I had it stuck in my head. Nina in the studio. Nina is just, she's like, "This is just amazing." Like, it's like she's falling in love with this guy because of his film.
Even though she doesn't love him.
And she eventually tells Frank, like, "I think Lou is pushing all of us to be better than we currently are." Which I'm like, now she's becoming him. Like, so now it's like, it feels less like she manipulated as much as she was like lying to herself that she didn't like this guy.
And then her job was on the line.
She definitely did get manipulated.
Her job was on the line.
Yeah, but she was too desperate to care about the fact that she got manipulated. Yeah. But it doesn't change the fact that Lou was obviously wrong for manipulating her.
Yeah. But I think, talking about, the relationship specifically of this movie, well, I mean, the last part is Lou gets his own company, gets some more vans. Right? Yeah,
and he ends winning. I mean, he never gets caught. The lady interviews him. She's right. She knows what he did, but she can't prove it. He covered his trail.
Yeah.
And so she basically says everything that he did, and he just says, "Nope, didn't do it." And he just smiles, goes out. He ends with more vans than he started with.
Yeah, he has like 4 vans or 3 vans, and he's giving them a motivational speech about the company. And it's a legit company at this point.
And he says, and just remember, I would never do...
Don't do anything. Yeah.
I would never ask you to do anything that I wouldn't do myself. Which is not true because of the situations he put Rick in.
Yes. So I think, thematically, thinking about specifically 2 relationships. I don't know if there's any other relationships, remind me if there are, between him and Nina and him and Rick. I think he starts out with a plea. He starts out with a plea to them, like, "Please give me your business with KWLA and work for me," right? But then that slowly evolves and progresses into something more, to where he's eventually created the scenario where he's actually getting good product for they're like good videos for Nina now, and he's actually like offering a pay raise. Like, he's making a lot of money. He's offering a pay raise to Rick. So now he starts to assert his dominance because he knows that he can. He knows there's going to be no consequences because they need him now. Then the third stage is he blackmails. He legit asserts his dominance to where he is now over Nina, and he is now over, instead of like a partner.
It's not enough to be mildly successful.
Yeah.
He also, I mean, it does seem like it is about the power and the asserting dominance. Yeah. Like, he needs to feel that way.
Yep.
Ultimately.
Yeah, and he uses his business principles. I don't know if there is a chance that he internally knows that it's wrong and just doesn't care, or there's a chance that he believes that what he's doing is okay because it's a business.
Well, it definitely seems like he has lost his natural sense, or maybe never had the natural sense that most people would, that these situations are wrong. He's like so good at deceiving himself.
Yeah, maybe he's just hyper-focused.
And he's so hyper-focused on the task at hand. Like, yeah, it's about obsession. He's obsessed.
Yeah.
Like, but it also shows, like, the whole escalation of his relationship with Nina shows that he, like, to some sense wants other things in his life, but they're all transactional. Like, they're all like, I provide this service.
There's no love.
There's no love. He doesn't have, like, those sort of emotional feelings that other people have.
I think we correctly diagnose.
Yeah, which is what gives him an advantage over other people, because he can take advantage of the fact that they experience those emotions.
If he loved Nina, if he loved Rick, he wouldn't have blackmailed them. That's why he had the advantage.
And he murders Rick. I mean, like,
oh yeah, I forgot.
He murders Rick. Like, so there's like, obviously there's no love because he murdered him.
Yeah.
So,
but it really is like a live action adaptation of the colloquial term "fake it till you make it."
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, he's a con artist, but he's so smart that he actually becomes, it's not like Catch Me If You Can where he's actually just faking it the whole movie. Like, no, he actually becomes what is originally the lie. It's just because it's built on lies, it's just the lies keep going and they keep...
All he had to do was blackmail a radio company, kill his competitors, and use one of his own assistants to make more money.
Yeah.
That's it.
He just had to kill 2 people.
Yeah.
If you think about the fact that he set up the shooting between the other people, if you count those, there could be a couple other dead bodies.
Although they shot other people.
And this is to be the president of a news video production company.
That's this company, right? I forgot.
To him, the lives are worth it to do that, which is so interesting because for most people, you like to think at least that that's not the case.
I wish we got a backstory.
Do we though? Sometimes that makes things worse. If you
no, not like a why he's, I don't know, why he's trying to build, like why in this point of life does he just do scraps? I don't know.
Well, I think like it sounds like since the economy is bad, it's hard to get a job, and so he's just sort of a loner wanderer type. He's a Sigma male. Our whole podcast has become just reviewing movies that are about Sigma males.
Drive.
I guess we've only done Drive in this movie, but I'm sure we'll do other ones.
No, we've probably done other ones. We just can't think of it.
Yeah. But I did want to bring up a few like things that I noticed this is the third time I watched this movie that like were just very subtle things that I don't know if they really had big meaning, but they were kind of funny. Like I think he's watching the TV at one point, and I think he's watching Monty Python.
Yeah, he was when they were on the castle wall.
Monty Python, and he's laughing so hysterically, and I was like, "What is that supposed to show about him?" Like he's just like,
I think it shows that like he knows that's supposed to be funny, so he's making a reaction. Maybe it's a fabricated reaction. Maybe we're thinking too deep, but it could be a fabricated reaction.
And then,
or the humor is so simple that it's like that's the only thing that can reach him.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's that. And then Rick, they're parked in the Dodge Charger. Rick and Lou, and he looks up and he sees a sign and he's like, Bed Bath and Beyond. What a great store! They have everything. and then it just cuts to a different scene. I was like, what was
Wait,
the point of
Lou
that?
says that?
No.
Or Rick?
Rick says that.
That's so funny.
And so I was like, what is symbolic about Bed Bath and Beyond? Like, I actually don't know. Like, that was just like I didn't notice that the first couple times I watched it, and I noticed that this recent watching, I was like, that's so odd.
Maybe it's like just an ad that they put in.
Oh, and I said that I thought the best shot in the movie was when Lou is filming Joe during his accident. He's being loaded onto a stretcher after his van crashes, and we see Joe look up and realize it's Lou, and then we get a shot up from Joe's angle looking at Lou's face.
Yes.
As
behind the camera.
Oh,
that was so good.
He looks so soulless.
Yeah.
And just like, and you realize
his eyes are so big
on Joe's face, and the like just uncaring, callous look, focused look on Lou's face. It's like, I don't know. It might be one of the best shots in any movie.
Well, because if you think about it, you could go deeper into this. Think about it. So his eyes are big. That's Jake Gyllenhaal's best quality.
Yeah.
But his eyes are big. He's focused on the camera. He doesn't even acknowledge that his competitor. What's his competitor?
Joe.
That Joe's like dying right in front of him, and he had to have noticed because he's watching the whole situation that Joe finally realizes that it's Lou.
Yeah.
Which means normal people would take that in and then like feel bad or like move their eye contact.
They wouldn't want.
Lou keeps his eye on the prize. He doesn't care if Joe looks at him at all. He doesn't feel that
Lou, empathy. He probably would want to know.
Yeah.
Like he would probably want Joe to know that he was the one who did it. I mean, it's never revealed like that Joe had any idea that he cut his brakes, but it was enough that he just saw him at the scene and he looked like that like he wouldn't have maybe still even known that he cut the brakes, but he knew that he had no like value for his like humanity basically.
Did Frank find out he cut the brakes?
I don't think Frank
I think he did it behind his back.
I don't think Frank knew. Frank was just like, he's one of us.
Yeah.
And that was like enough for him. Like he had the reaction that most people would have.
Which means that means that
reverence.
That goes to my first theory that he knows that it's wrong. If he didn't think that it was wrong, he wouldn't have hid it from Frank.
True.
Or he knew how Frank would react.
Frank would react in a negative way.
Yeah, but I mean that's just morality.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But they're always throwing morals to the side. Like when Frank asked Nina about the videos and stuff. Yeah. They just like, this isn't about morals. It's about TV.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, what main aspects of the culture are they trying to critique in this movie? Is it?
I said Frank. I meant to say Rick.
Yeah, Rick.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. There's so many people who have like names that are like similar.
One syllable.
Yeah, one syllable names. Yeah. I don't know if it's actually critiquing society. I mean, there could be an idea that it's critiquing like the fact that society cultivates like there's just these men who just live and they live by themselves and they are loners. It seems like a lot of the most violent situations come out of like men who are isolated and alone and get all of their information from the internet. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. Or it could be like a B plot could be a play on the media.
The media and how they use like things like the contrast between rich and poor to their advantage.
Yeah. Well, I think it would be how much power do the news producers have in what is shown?
Yeah.
Like a good thing would be if they had no power in what was shown and they were just only allowed to show what was shown.
Yeah, but who's going to control that?
You can't.
You can't, because in the free market you need competitors, but then there will always be this underside to that. I don't know whether you can fix this or not, but like, I mean, in theory, you hope that people keep their morals in line, so they're not willing to sacrifice their morals. But there will always be somebody who is willing to sacrifice their morals in order to get a leg up.
Honestly,
like,
with the news stuff, yeah.
And even if you try to regulate it to where you're like, it's not, that there will still be somebody who will try to cut the corner. So, but at the end of the day, you hope that integrity wins in some way. Like, it doesn't pay to lose your integrity eventually. Like, it might seem in the short term that it does, but in the long term, it doesn't. But this movie is sort of showing that, like, there's definitely ways that you can lack integrity and still end up on top. So
just find those ways. That's our advice.
You can either take this movie and you could make it a lesson in how to become a sociopathic, successful business person, or you could, I don't know, just find it interesting because you like analyzing people. I don't really know if there's like a whole lot to learn from this movie.
There's not even a whole lot to analyze.
Specific situation. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I would have never thought of it. I think the first time I watched this movie, I was kind of amazed at how interesting they could make the idea of night crawling, which is not even something you think of being a business. I
thought it was like the superhero at first.
Oh, really?
Like the X-Men character, Nightcrawler.
There's an X-Men character named Nightcrawler?
I think so, yeah.
I remember hearing about this movie, and I heard about Drive around the same time, and I kind of got them mixed up. But, like, they have similarities in that they're both about, like, very centered on one person. But Drive, the character is much more likable, and it's much more about a positive relationship and also a negative aspect of the positive relationship, where this one is just about negative, bad relationships and a horrible person. Like, there's no redeemable qualities about the main character in this movie.
I don't think the character in Drive... I think the character in Drive loved more, and he talked a lot less.
Yes.
So...
yeah, that's very true. But they're both loners, and they both are good at driving cars. Although Jake Gyllenhaal seems like it was more of a skill he learned on the fly.
Because he goes like 90 miles per hour.
And Rick's like, oh my... what? What's going on? Why are you doing this?
Yeah, that was basically Rick the entire movie, though, to be honest.
Who played Rick? Was that...
I don't know. I've never seen him before.
I thought it was somebody who was somewhat popular, but... oh, yeah, it's Riz Ahmed.
Wait. Really?
Yeah, Riz Ahmed, who is in... he's...
you ever
Bodhi Rook in Rogue One.
Okay.
And I feel like I've heard the name, but then I'm seeing these credits and I'm like, maybe this is not the same guy I'm thinking of.
No, I know the name Riz Ahmed.
Oh, he's in Sound of Metal. Yeah.
Well,
okay.
I haven't seen it,
but I know he's in it. Yeah. So he's definitely gone up in stock since this. Bill Paxton, I feel like I've heard of. He's Joe.
Yeah.
And then I don't know who Kevin Ram is. Who's Frank? There's not that many characters in this movie.
There's like
Renee
6 or
Russo
7.
is Nina. She's all right, I guess. She plays a pretty convincing character, but it's obviously Gyllenhaal. And I think this is a period in Jake Gyllenhaal's career where he's really going into the like solo small films. Like he did this movie, Enemy, and Prisoners all within the same time period. And that's kind of the period of time where people are like, oh, okay, this guy's like a leading man. And he did actually work with Dan Gilroy, the guy who directed this movie again, in the movie Velvet Buzzsaw, which is a Netflix original, I believe. Not as good as this movie. It's kind of a strange movie about art. It's a horror movie about art. Like the paintings come alive.
Really?
Yeah. I think it's worth watching. It's just not quite as like this movie is so well paced and so it's like almost a perfect movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
and it's because they kept it local, like you said, and very specific.
Yeah, they didn't have to. I mean, you can only make one of these movies. Again, I think this is another thing I heard other podcasters talk about. I believe it was Wisecracks. What do you?
The police.
Now I forgot.
That's the group of people
anyway,
that's over there.
Wisecrack did the podcast. I forget what. Oh, Show Me the Meaning. And they're ending that podcast. But it's a good podcast if you like.
They're ending Wisecrack?
They're ending that specific podcast
of the brand.
That
okay,
they did. Yeah,
I was about to say.
They're a lot smarter than I am. So if you want to get some,
No, they're not. Ben, you're smart.
Although in some ways they might think that they're smart. Okay, now I'm dissing another.
Now Ben's smarter.
The first time I've done. They might think that they're so smart because they've gotten all this college education and stuff. But really, does that make you smarter? Does that make you know more about Russian philosophers and obscure philosophers that you can just?
But does knowing philosophy make you smarter, Ben?
No, it makes you dumber because you realize how little you know, right?
Socrates.
Yeah. Aristotle.
Yes.
I just start naming philosophers.
Yes. Well, that was the quote. That's what I was saying. But yes.
I'm trying to think. Is there anything else we need to discuss?
I don't know. That's the thing. I was just like, we probably haven't hit the time mark. But honestly, this is a movie that has the same situations in a row. So when you analyze them, it's kind of shorter.
Yeah, it's just showing. It's a progression. You're progressing worse and worse. But it's almost. I don't view this as a like. There's certain movies, TV shows, Breaking Bad maybe, that are about people who make a choice to do something wrong and then keep sliding down and eventually become a monster. Mm-hmm. This movie, he's already a monster. He just hasn't
had time to shine.
To create the opportunities that can really show how much of a monster he is. It's not him sliding. He would have done all of this over again. He would have done anything in a heartbeat at the start of the movie. He just hadn't learned what he needed to do yet.
That's why I like Jake Gyllenhaal, because this was kind of like his character didn't change.
No.
His character stayed the same.
Yeah.
But it was such a good performance that it was believable. Like, it was like you were so caught up into it. But I think it was great that his character didn't change.
Right.
Maybe you're right. Maybe a backstory wouldn't be good.
No, because I don't know. How do you even... It almost feels like this guy has just been like this his whole life, and this is finally his breakthrough moment.
Yeah.
And his breakthrough moment is like super positive for him, but for everyone else, it's like horrific.
Yeah. Yeah, he's very he's centered. He's just focused.
Yeah. And so can you imagine raising this kid? Like, I don't know. Or like, you said he grew up in North LA. Like, that's all the backstory we have.
Yeah.
Like, because Nina tries to do small talk. This guy doesn't really do small talk.
Yeah.
He's just very blunt, doesn't care about any of the niceties beyond what he has to do. So, that's it. And so, I guess that's true of the movie vault, too. And we're just going to end it right here.
But we also have an ad.
Yeah, we do. The thing is, I don't have the phone number memorized.
614.
So what I'm going to do is say, if you wreck your car, call Hedman Anglin Agency.
614 something 8. It's something 00.
Something. I don't have access to the internet.
It'll be in our
description.
Yeah.
And I believe it's HedmanAnglinAgency.com, or you can just Google Hedman Anglin Agency. I mean, that you'll be able to get the phone number and everything. So I know this is probably the best ad we've done for them, but you can definitely call, especially if you have a Dodge Charger or Challenger. Yeah, that's a nice car.
Dodge Charger.
You want to have insurance on your Dodge Challenger that's affordable because you spend a lot of money on it. And it's so odd also that he gets a Dodge Challenger. Maybe we should discuss the vehicles because it's like so impractical. But I guess the only practical aspect is that it's.
Well, he gets vans at the end, so he's practical.
At the end. But maybe it's smart because he can get to places faster.
Yeah, but if the police are right behind him and he's trying to escape the police, it's a red. Was it red, right?
Yeah, it's like bright red.
Yeah, no, that was dumb. It was for his pride.
He got a black car or something.
It was for his pride.
Yeah, he just liked it. And then eventually he did get vans. He probably kept the Challenger as a daily driver. Maybe he got a nicer apartment. He barely had anything in his apartment. The detectives are odd too. They show up like twice. And you're like, you realize that like the footage he has is a problem and it is evidence, but somehow they just can't get to him. He's already thought around that.
I mean, you can't really do anything else. You can't interrogate him.
No.
He's not a suspect. They don't know he was there, do they?
No.
They just know that he got the footage.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't know he was there before.
Yeah, and he wants them to know he got the footage. He very much he
added his credit.
Actually,
that's right. I forgot.
He's not just somebody who's just obsessed and doesn't care about credit. He cares about credit.
Yeah.
He wants people to know it's Louis Bloom, Video Production News. Or isn't that it? Like,
yeah, no, they said video brought to us by video
or News Video Production, one of those.
Video Production News.
I don't know. It was a very simple name, whatever it was.
I was like, that's the lamest name ever.
And it's so lame. It is lame. But it's like, and maybe that just shows like branding is not like his strong suit, perhaps.
Yeah. But it worked out, and he did get practical with three. I don't know if it was 3 or 4 vans at the end, but he got like 6 workers.
Yeah.
It's kind of good.
They were all interns too, if you didn't notice. So he's like, maybe you'll be able to work a full-time position in the future.
Well, maybe he was giving them $30 a night.
Nothing at the same time.
Maybe not $30 a night, though.
True.
Yeah.
I think we have somebody interrupting the podcast right now.
What?
Oh, that's right. All right, we have to go to a ping pong tournament and beat everyone. So
I'm actually in it too.
This is actually perfect timing. We're right at the 45-minute mark, and which is very concise, which represents this movie well.
True.
So, any final thoughts?
I would say right now it's my favorite movie.
Wow.
Yeah.
I give it a 9.5 out of 10. I don't know what exactly is holding it back from the 5-star for me. Maybe it's just it doesn't. I don't know.
5 stars out of 10. 10 out of 10.
But like I give. Yeah, I'll think about it. It's definitely in consideration to be a 5-star movie. The odd thing is that I feel like I had less hesitation to give other movies 5 stars that I don't like as much as this.
And
movie.
You can't have everybody have a 5-star.
Yeah, that's part of the issue. So there's something that's holding back quite from getting a 5 out of 5 or a 10 out of 10 or whatever you want to call it. So 9.5 for me. And go watch this movie if you haven't watched it.
It's good. It's long. It's like 2.5 hours. Isn't it?
No, it's just 2 hours.
2 hours?
Maybe not even 2 hours.
That's still too long.
It still feels longer than it.
Yeah.
Like when you talk about it, it feels like it's shorter than it actually was.
Yeah, because the character doesn't change. True. But anyway, we'll remember that number and put it in the description. I feel bad. Something 00. There's 2 zeros at the end. It's bothering me.
It is time to close the vault.
Good. That was good.
I won't ask you to listen to any podcast episode that I wouldn't listen to myself.
But listen to us.